Well, the virus has now killed more than 100 people in China, and new cases have been confirmed around the world.
So you don't want to frighten the American public.
France and South Korea have also got evacuation plans.
But you need to prepare for and assume
strongly warning Americans to avoid all non-essential travel to China.
That this is going to be a real serious problem.
France, Australia, Canada, the US, Singapore, Cambodia, Vietnam, the list goes on.
Health officials are investigating more than 100 possible cases in the US.
Germany, a man has contracted the virus.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
Japan, where a bus driver contracted the virus.
Coronavirus has killed more than 100 people there and infected more than 4,500.
We have to prepare for the worst, always, because if you don't and the worst happens.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Live from Capitol Hill, it's 7 May, the year of our Lord 2020, a stunning Thursday. You wouldn't know that because if you're in Washington, D.C., the capital of the greatest nation in the history of the earth, you're sheltering in place. Let's go to the videotape.
And we went through the worst attack we've ever had in our country. This is really the worst attack we've ever had. This is worse than Pearl Harbor. This is worse than the World Trade Center. There's never been an attack like this. And it should have never happened. Could have been stopped at the source.
Good morning, Beijing. Direct from the Oval Office, the Commander-in-Chief of these United States. Let's play that one again. I only played that like 1,000 times last night. Okay? So we're going to play it about 1,000 times a day.
The worst attack we've ever had in our country. This is really the worst attack we've ever had. This is worse than Pearl Harbor. This is worse than the World Trade Center. There's never been an attack like this. And it should...
Okay, CNN, MSNBC, even Fox. I understand the nurse, and I thought the nurse, laid out a thing. I thought she was actually, trying to be helpful or whatever. You got the nurse, everything like that. This is the only thing that mattered yesterday. This is the Commander-in-Chief of the United States sitting at the Resolute desk, right? That was the desk of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, wasn't it? I think it was FDR's desk, Kennedy's desk. I believe it's FDR's desk. Anyway, in the Oval Office, where he oversaw World War II, saying this is an attack like Pearl Harbor, like 9/11. Those attacks, ladies and gentlemen, what are the two things that bind those two things together? Sneak attacks, right? Sneak attacks. Sneak attacks. Commander-in-Chief, President of these United States. Let's play that one more time.
Through the worst attack we've ever had in our country. This is really the worst attack we've ever had. This is worse than Pearl Harbor. This is worse than the World Trade Center. There's never been an attack like this. And it should have never happened. Could have been stopped at the source. Could have been stopped in China. It should have been stopped right at the source. And it wasn't.
Hello, Beijing. By the way, on John Fredericks Radio Network, Dish Channel 219 with America's Voice, Newsmax TV, FM 99.1, 103.9. We're also now live in Canada, and I will momentarily get the station we're on. They picked us up all over the world, and millions of people listen every day. I got to tell you, for the Chinese people that are reaching out for the whistleblower movement, it's amazing. But just to hear every day your comments are coming back about this show, because we're fighting for your liberation from these devils. The President of the United States, the Commander-in-Chief of the most powerful military force, economic force, by the way, an economic force that today now has 33 million Americans have filed for unemployment. We'll get the monthly April numbers tomorrow. I'm sure it's going to show almost 20%, although Brahim's telling me we're net 5 on that. Fine. So let's say we're 28 million, 30 million. I don't know what the number is. But we've got Pearl Harbor and the Great Depression all rolled up into one. President of the United States. Operant words there. Attack. Operant word there. Didn't know about it, right? Pearl Harbor, 9/11, China. There's a lot of
stopped at the source.
Stopped at the source, then China. Never should have happened. The media has to understand something. When the commander-in-chief says something like that, that's the only thing that matters. And I understand with the nurse, and I get that, and that was kind of an important thing, and it should be played up, and other things should be played up during the day. But that's the thing that matters. That's the thing 10 years from now it's going to matter. And I tell you who made it number one on their reading list. The guys in Beijing, right? They saw that right away and go, what did he just say? Did he just compare this to Pearl Harbor and to 9/11? Pearl Harbor, 9/11, January of 2020. Folks, you back out New York City, this epidemic is roaring through the United States of America. What are we at now? We're at 74, 75,000 dead. I understand we're all going to argue with each other about, hey, this guy shouldn't count, that guy should count, there's more of these, there's none of that. You know, I can open, I can do all this. Boom. The United States military, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm a proud veteran, naval officer, best thing I ever did, greatest years of my life. I will never be able to thank the United States government and the United States Navy for letting me be part of that. My daughter, a West Point grad, 101st Airborne, Iraq, she will tell you the same thing. Did her 8 years. My kid brother, Navy pilot. Greatest things ever happened to us. The United States military, yesterday, talk about a buried lead. If you have, and Jack, no offense, all you herd immunity guys, let me hear all the Ubermenches. Where's all my Atlas Shrugged crowd? Herd immunity. Herd immunity. All the Atlas Shrugged. It's hashtag War Room Pandemic. And yes, I'm in your grill. Herd immunity. Atlas Shrugged guys, women. United States military. The greatest force for good in the history of the world has freed more people than any institution in the history of the world, the United States military. We have blood on every continent and have sacrificed to free billions of people throughout the world. Sacrifice of people that made no money, that are, there's 25,000 or 30,000 airmen in the air war over Europe. We don't know where they're just buried where they dropped. Right? Greatest force for good. Jack, what did they tell us last night? Permanently, it's just buried down in the thing. It's buried. You got to read the thing. Oh, COVID-19, we got to check. Permanently disqualifies you. Permanently disqualifies you. Permanently attack Pearl Harbor, 9/11. China knew about it. Permanently disqualified. The one thing the United States military knows about is processing human beings, right? Folks, we have no earthly idea about this virus, okay? We're like the old Hindu story about the elephant with the blind guy. You get some, and that's what we are. And we have the greatest scientists in the world that are trying to go through this. The greatest scientists in the world going through this. This is a complicated topic. They're just finding, I know we're learning little bits and pieces about it every day. We got a raging epidemic right now in this country. And we got a West Coast version. We got an East Coast version. New York Times tells us today. Guess what? Started in New York City. You know why it started in New York City? John F. Kennedy Airport. Flew in from all over the world, right in there, right? Hey, you're not angry enough. I want to see hashtag War Room Pandemic. I want you to stop your whining, and I want to see some anger, okay? We're fighting each other. We're fighting the governor of Michigan. We got guys in there with guns, yelling at her. We got people don't like what DeSantis is doing. We got, Greg Abbott's going to be in the White House today. You got everybody, this is wrong. I got my rights. You can't lock me down. You're a fascist. Or you're a crackpot because you're infecting everybody. We're at each other's throats. And the President of the United States, from the Resolute desk in the Oval Office, where we have gotten the greatest victories in the 20th century, lays out it is an attack, right? And the United States military at the same time tells you permanently disqualified. And I want to thank Raheem Kassam for bringing that up. I actually missed it the first time. And when you brought it up to me, I talked to Jason Miller, go, this is impossible.
But this goes let's go right to the Roosevelt, the aircraft carrier. So we literally going to go through and march out every sailor that is tested positive and say, hey, guys, thanks for playing. You did great. Enjoy the VA?
No. We have no, but here's what I'm saying about this virus. We have no earthly idea about this. And anybody sitting there think we're going to get a vaccine, hey, here's what's going to happen on a vaccine. And I'm just saying, for all of planning purposes, on unlocking the country and going forward, we got to do this. I understand that. But it ain't going to be no vaccine anytime short. Maybe there is. If there is, then that's upside. That's option value. That's the optionality here.
Here's something also from this article in Military Times that I think everybody should hear about because it goes to the heart of some of the things that we don't understand about this. And I'll cover something on this as well. They said that the military is mostly concerned because they don't know whether the respiratory damage from the virus is long-lasting or it could create some sort of permanent dysfunction in the potential recruit. The other thing that they're not sure about is whether or not having had it once would lead to further flare-ups. And the other thing that they said is they are concerned that having had COVID once does not provide full immunity. And here's the big kicker, and this is also true in some other viral diseases. Certainly it's true of dengue. It said that might not provide full immunity for the future and could potentially leave someone at a higher risk to contract it again, perhaps with worse complications. For example, dengue, if you get the mild version, you're more likely to get the hemorrhagic version on the second round, which is potentially lethal. So these questions are something
that goes into my heading because I'm a simple guy in this. And that goes in the heading. We don't know anything about this thing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely,
we don't know nothing. You know, Samuel Goldman said about the movie business, nobody knows nothing. And the smartest minds in the world are trying to work through this, right? And you got guys saying this, people saying this, men and women saying this. Boom, we don't know, right? All I know is the United States military, it's in the business of processing healthy, fit bodies. Permanently just didn't say, hey, get back to us, take a thing, we'll call you back, leave your number. And this leave your number. See ya. Wouldn't want to be ya.
A huge problem for the last 2 decades of kids sitting on their asses watching video games and things like that is that we can't even find healthy recruits right now.
What?
We have so many fat bodies.
A big old fat kid with sitting there, with a video game is going to be looking okay as long as he doesn't have the CCP virus. The CCP, it's not the COVID. Stop calling it the COVID-19. It's the CCP virus. They deliver this. This is not Steve Bannon going whack job, hair on fire. President of the United States. Got to play that again, Jason. I could listen. This is going to be the soundtrack for the show.
Just before you do that, I'm giving you time to get ready. I just want to reset and explain to people what we're talking about here because we kind of jumped in pretty hot on that. Okay, this was a little
hot.
Hotter than usual. I don't know what's gotten into you today. Is it the Red Bulls again? This is a MEPCOM memo, right? So this is the U.S. Military Entrance Processing Command that is published at themilitarytimes.com. We've just tweeted it out. It's on #WarRoomPandemic. If you want to read it for yourself, this isn't some tweet that we've picked up on. This is a confirmed memo. Pentagon spokeswoman Jessica Maxwell confirmed its authenticity to the Military Times, and it says, during the medical history interview or examination, a history of COVID-19 confirmed by either a laboratory test or a clinician diagnosis is permanently disqualifying. Let's go to the president.
Went through the worst attack we've ever had on our country. This is really the worst attack we've ever had. This is worse than Pearl Harbor. This is worse than the World Trade Center. There's never been an attack like this. And it should have never happened. Could have been stopped at the source. Could have been stopped in China. It should have been stopped right at the source. And it wasn't.
There has never been an attack like this. When you go back in history and you look at the concept of attacks, that means you're technically in a state of war, right? Technically in a state of war? We're going to leave that hanging. We're going to come back on War Room Pandemic. We're going to talk about the economy, the economic inferno that we're walking into, and also the war of the CCP against the people of the United States.
In the last year, there were 3 victims of cybercrime every second. When a criminal has your personal information, they can do all sorts of things in your name. Criminals can use ransomware, spyware, or malware to gain access to information, like your name, your birthday, and even your social security number.
That's why Norton and LifeLock are now part of one company, providing an all-in-one membership for your cyber safety that gives you identity theft protection, device security, a VPN for online privacy, and more. And if you have an identity theft problem, we'll work to fix it with our $1 million protection package.
There are new cyber threats out there every day. So protecting yourself isn't a one-time job, it's an ongoing need. Now is the time to make sure that you have the right plan in place. Don't wait.
Norton 360 with LifeLock. Use promo code GET25 to save 25% off your first year and get a free shredder with annual membership. Call now to start your membership or visit lifelock.com/TV.
Have you or a loved one taken Zantac or another heartburn medication and developed cancer? You may be entitled to compensation. The FDA just announced that it is requesting manufacturers withdraw from the market all prescription and over-the-counter ranitidine heartburn medications, commonly known by the brand name Zantac. This is the latest step in an ongoing investigation of a contaminant known as NDMA in ranitidine heartburn medications. NDMA is a chemical that the FDA and World Health Organization both classify as cancer-causing. Now, prior to this announcement, CVS and Walgreens pulled Zantac from their shelves, citing the link between Zantac, NDMA, and cancer. If you or a loved one have taken Zantac or another heartburn medication and developed cancer, how do you fight for the compensation you deserve? You choose the right legal team that has the experience, support staff, and resources to seek the most compensation for your injuries. Call for more information and a free case review.
My son needs this drug. I hope it doesn't cost too much. I hope my insurance pays for it. Can you tell me how much this will be?
67.
Sorry.
Wait, have you heard about GoodRx? GoodRx finds free coupons to help you save up to 80% on your prescriptions.
Wow. I had no idea.
GoodRx. Stop paying too much for your prescriptions.
Hi, Linda. Looks like you've got a prescription to fill. Any idea how much that's going to cost in there? The exact same drug that's $10 at this pharmacy is $150 at this one. GoodRx finds prices and discount coupons on every prescription. Just input the drug name and instantly find savings at virtually every pharmacy in America.
Next. What can I do for you? Here's my prescription, and I have a coupon from GoodRx. Nice price.
Stop paying too much for your prescriptions with GoodRx.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
On the same day that the military says it's a permanently disqualifying if you get this virus, the President of the United States says there's never been an attack like this, and it could have been stopped at the source, China. And it, quote, should have been stopped. Now, he says in a couple of weeks we're going to assess the trade deal. The trade deal, it's OBE, overcome by events, right? Good, fantastic start. He held these guys accountable like they've never been held accountable. The trade deal, the first deal about them buying, you saw, I think it's in Bloomberg today. They're so far behind on the $200 billion of non-agriculture goods. I don't know if they could ever catch up. Don't even know if they have the cash to do it. And then the agriculture. I don't know if we even have the poultry products. They're certainly not buying at the levels they're buying at. But that being said, I don't remember us negotiating a trade deal with Imperial Japan in the weeks following Pearl Harbor. I think that all kind of gets set aside. It's one or the other, right? I don't remember us after Hitler declared war on us, I think on the 10th of December. I don't think we had long-term tariff relationships anymore. What we sent them was the 8th Air Force, the 8th Army Air Corps, over the Rhine, over the Ruhr Valley, at the receiving end of bombing runs, daylight precision bombing, because our British cousins God bless them, just said, "Hey, I think we'll do the night version. We'll take the night run. You guys do the day run."
You do know why that is. It's because the American pilots were being created so quickly that they didn't have any ability to fly with instruments.
God, that's so British. That's British propaganda. Talk about information warfare. It's also because you can hit more things. My version is you hit more things when you're in daylight bombing. Let's go back to where are we on this today? 3 million people. A huge announcement of the president the other day. Now you see why Mike Pompeo. This is why you see Mike Pompeo is on Mike Pompeo is on fire here, right? Mike Pompeo is the tip of the spear. You know, you have Robert O'Brien's a great guy, but he's obviously taken a much lower media profile. Mike Pompeo is out there, and he's the one you can tell that is the organizer, right?
And he was out there this morning on Squawk Box talking about Patient Zero and the fact that China should put that forward. Should we go and play that?
Yeah, let's do it.
We know for sure that this virus originated in Wuhan, China, and that the disease emanated around the world. The Chinese Communist Party covered this up. We have been working diligently and are working diligently today to get the Chinese Communist Party to help us identify patient zero, where this began, how this came to be. And this isn't about politics. This isn't about partisanship. This is about protecting Americans tomorrow. This is an ongoing crisis. The world's epidemiologists still don't know the origins of this virus. The reason that we continue to ask for transparency and for a reliable partner in China is because it matters going forward. Joe, not only do we have this current pandemic that's taking place, that we still have to figure out how to get therapeutics, get vaccines to market, all the things that we need, this information that only the Chinese Communist Party has in its possession. They're the only ones that can help the world resolve this today and for our American security. But we got to make sure this doesn't happen again. You made a reference to the absence of.
And that's key there. Got to make sure this doesn't happen again. And there's also, going into this, there's a new report out today in the study book, Infection, Genetics, and Evolution. Steve, you subscribe to that, right?
I do. Now I do.
Yeah, now you do. They're saying it may have been October. This came
but
about.
This is the old misdirection play. You've got guys now saying, "Hey, I think it came from southern China. I think I got a guys here. I think I got guys here." This is the one thing the CCP is full on trying to do. Full on is trying to get it away from Wuhan, right? I got it here. I got Oxford here. Listen. The farther you go back in time, just kills them because that means they knew about it earlier.
Well,
right.
And
but what they're definitely trying to do is get away from that P4 lab as fast as possible. Mike Pompeo, who, remember, his previous gig was head of the CIA. His previous gig before that, the reason he got that, he was with the number 2 guy in the House Intelligence Committee, West Point graduate. I think he's number 1 in his class at West Point. This is not a guy that Mike Pompeo is known for under-promising and over-delivering, right? He's not I'm going to promise you the world and come in with 25% of it. He's the exact opposite. When Mike Pompeo says, and I think the quote is, "We know it definitively came from Wuhan," Beijing should take that as a papal bull, okay? They should understand that on the day before you have the commander-in-chief who, his great saying, the one I love best, no games, right? No games. Remember that? No games. He doesn't like games. He knows he's getting played by the guys in Beijing. He's not going to tolerate it, okay? The more information he's getting, and you can see that slow burn, right? We got a slow burn going on right now. So he's saying it's going to take 2 weeks to go through the trade deal. It's going to be simple. The Chinese Communist Party is responsible for all the carnage. Southampton University shows you 95% of this could all been avoided. All they had to do was be decent human beings. And nothing would have happened in Wuhan. I shouldn't say nothing would happen. It would have been stopped at the source. Okay, so all the death and agony in Wuhan, all the death and agony in Hubei, today in Harbin, up near the Russian border. And this is a special announcement. Want to make sure Chinese intelligence, state security, guys in Beijing, everybody's following us in the Wu Mao 50 Cent Army on Saturday. Yes, for 2 solid hours. We're going to have the voices of the Chinese people, most of them coming to us from the mainland. I've been working on this one for a while. They're going to tell personal stories. They're going to tell personal stories, and guess what, about cities that are not Wuhan. and what it was like there. The CCP are a group of devils. Okay, the president of the United States called you out yesterday. I don't want to see that little ambassador wandering around doing his op-eds in the Washington Post and wandering around, yammering around like a chihuahua, right? Yammering around, barking. You're. Didn't we send? I think we sent the Japanese guys home after they, slow rolled us on the treaty, right? I don't know why these guys are even here now.
Well, it's interesting. The East Asia desk for the State Department put out a statement. Remember, Pottinger gave that very good speech in Mandarin. And they said, last night, the Washington Post carried Chinese Ambassador Qui's op-ed because that's what freedom of the press looks like. Also, last night, Matt Pottinger's speech on Weibo disappeared within 5 minutes because that's what censorship looks like. Even the State Department's getting on board.
We're going to have Michael Horowitz on again tomorrow, I think, right, Fish? Tomorrow we're going to have Michael Horowitz on about the firewall, us taking down the firewall, the Berlin Wall. But they should know, every day people are blowing through this. They thirst for information because they understand the firewall's got to come down first before their liberation actually commences, right? This is this whole battle. Pottinger's thing on the May 4th thing was absolutely magnificent and spoken in perfect Mandarin. The one thing I got back is people said, hey, this guy is a player. His Mandarin. And I'll tell you another thing, Jack Posobiec. I always get compliments about Posobiec's Mandarin. And that's a big deal. The understanding and the discipline it takes to learn and to speak precisely. And it's very powerful. But on Saturday, another 2-hour special, Descent into Hell Part 4. The other Chinese cities. Also, we got so many other stories when we're talking about the brutality against the religious thing. Remember, the young people over in China, and you're seeing this here in the United States, I think people are going to appreciate. You're going to have a great appreciation for just doing the simple things again, going to a ball game, walking around the neighborhood. You understand that what freedom's really about. And I got to tell you, the stories I hear all the time from these people in China, they thirst for a spiritual, not just Christianity, but other, the spiritual Buddhism, etc. They thirst for something different than the atheistic, materialistic communism that it is, which is not communism because the guys are the wealthiest guys in the world. This totalitarian kind of slave mentality. They're slaves. In an atheistic, materialistic, stripped of any kind of human dignity, stripped of any any ability to kind of yearn for any kind of spiritual development. That's what's going to bring them down. Right, that's what's going to bring them down. That's what these people are thirsting for. And they look at us in the West and they understand. This is what Pottinger was so brilliant. That speech is going to go down in the history of this war as one of the most brilliant speeches because he tied together the Western tradition with the great underlying philosophy and understanding of ancient Chinese culture. This is why Pottinger is such a special guy. To speak in perfect Mandarin and to tie it to the May 4th movement. And if you know anything about Chinese history and the Chinese revolutionary movements, this was just a very deep – that's why they took it down right away. We have these guys actually on the run. They look like they're quite powerful, but they got feet of clay. But we just have to – the key is Lao Beijing, the old 100 names and the deplorables. Why are they this show is important. Why are we public enemy number one? It's because they understand the deplorables. Once the deplorables get angry – like, remember, World War II was being fought for years and years and years. It was fought starting in 1935 – in China. They were starting in the late 30s and in 39, September 1st, 39, with England and everybody in there. France had already fallen, but years and years and years. 1940, Franklin Roosevelt, the key part of his plank to beat Wendy Wilkie is, I will never get us in another European war, right? Slow to anger, not looking to, what the founders tell us, don't go abroad. Don't go abroad looking for monsters to slay. Right? That's not us. We're not there. But when the monster – can we play Trump again? When the monster comes here – this is not us. This is not a bunch of wingnuts in some basement on Capitol Hill. Actually, not a basement. Very nice first floor. Not a bunch of wingnuts. This is the president of these United States, the commander-in-chief, most powerful individual on earth. We're going to do this when we return. We don't have enough time here. I want to hang it. We'll leave them hanging.
We got time.
What's
you got time?
The worst attack we've ever had on our country. This is really the worst attack we've ever had. This is worse than Pearl Harbor. This is worse than the World Trade Center. There's never been an attack like this. And it should have never happened. Could have been stopped at the source. Could have been stopped in China. It should have been stopped right at the source.
And you better than anybody, we'll take a short break about how he thinks things through. We return in a moment about the war.
The hottest new razor is taking the men's grooming world by storm. And if you don't have it, you need it. MicroTouch Solo, the hyper-advanced full-body razor that trims, shapes, edges, and even shaves with micro-precision. And it's totally safe to the touch. Go solo for full body control with one tool. No nicks, bumps, or ingrown hairs. Edge beards and goatees with one touch. Clean your neck, barber shop perfect. And check this out. Snap on the guide to tame growth and perfectly shape your full beard. And keep new growth stubble trimmed exactly to your style. And look, the Solo Full Body Groomer trims precisely the length of hair you want. Snap off the guide and remove unwanted hair anywhere in seconds. What makes Solo different than your ordinary razor? Dual-sided German stainless steel blade. Shave up or down at 200 microstrokes per second. The Ultra Flex pivoting head contours perfectly to you for precise results. 3 custom grooming guides for control of exact length and shape. And a built-in LED light so you never miss a spot. Solo is so precise, you need no creams, no soaps, and no water. Ditch the old man clippers and toss the scissors. You've got to go solo. Call 1-800-709-9777 or go online at microtouchsolo.com and get yours now for only $19.99. Complete with German stainless steel blade, pivoting head, built-in spotlight, and 3 custom grooming guides. Everything you see here for just $19.99. The all-new MicroTouch Solo Full Body Groomer. The one tool that does it all.
Hello, I'm William Shatner, and you may not know this about me, but years ago, I was diagnosed with a sleep disorder. And like millions of others, I was prescribed sleep equipment. Did you know sleep equipment manufacturers recommend daily cleaning? That's why I use SoClean. It's the perfect complement to my daily routine, and it's hassle-free. SoClean is fast and easy. It keeps my sleep equipment fresh every day without the need for disassembly.
With SoClean, daily maintenance is a snap. All you do is place your equipment in, close the lid, and walk away. You can try SoClean risk-free for 30 nights. Order now and get a $50 rebate.
SoClean is so fast and gives you peace of mind that your sleep equipment is fresh each time you use it.
Call 1-800-648-4349. And for a limited time, get a $50 rebate. Call 1-800-648-4349 or go to SoClean.com.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome back to War Room Pandemic. It's 7 May, the year of our Lord 2020. Let's go. I want to hear the voice. I got to hear the voice of Mike Pompeo again. It makes me feel better.
We know for sure that this virus originated in Wuhan, China, and that the disease emanated around the world. The Chinese Communist Party covered this up. We have been working diligently and are working diligently today to get the Chinese Communist Party to help us identify patient zero, where this began, how this came to be. And this isn't about politics. This isn't about partisanship. This is about protecting Americans tomorrow. This is an ongoing crisis. The world's epidemiologists still don't know the origins of this virus. The reason that we continue...
how many people we have right now in this country, Jack?
We've got over... let me pull it up.
Just give me the top. What's the top line number?
73,400.
No, that's dead. That's dead. They all have
Total
lawyers.
cases 1,225,230.
So everybody permanently disqualified. I think that sounds like a disability. Permanently disqualified. Everybody go get your lawyer. Mike Pompeo just gave you a free shot on gold. Cover up. The liability. Okay, the number's tens of trillions. It's tens of trillions. You know, the reason I became public enemy number one in China on CCTV and all the different sites is that I hit them. The thing that they got most upset was I talked about their personal assets. See, in China, that's one thing they hide the most is how much money. They are worth hundreds of billions of dollars they've stolen out of China. That's why Belgravia is anybody from the UK can't own a house in Belgravia anymore because they're through the roof because the Chinese Communist Party bought up all the real estate and in Midtown Manhattan, right? That's the assets we got to seize. Got to seize all their assets, make them paupers, the heads of the CCP. Got to strip them of sovereign immunity. We got a lot of this coming next week. We got some of the top Beijing. Write this down. We got some of the top legal minds in the nation right now working through all the issues. Speaking of top legal minds in the nation, Jones Day, the law firm of Don McGahn, Steve Brogan, who's one of my heroes. I mean, Jones Day, who Don McGahn and all the guys did such a fabulous job at the White House counsel's office under McGahn. Just fantastic. Jones Day was announced yesterday. Jones Day is now the lobbyist, one of the lobbyist firms for Huawei. Steve, I got it. You got to get the brief. You got to get the brief. It's not that dog don't hunt, okay? They're the PLA. Zoom, I got to give Zoom another all these apparatuses. Jack Ma got Raheem and Posobiec now all over the information warfare, the Chinese Communist Party. Jack Ma, another front guy, right? The guy in back of Alibaba is the guy that owns the nets. Another bad hombre. Okay, they're all over. Money everywhere. Influence peddling, money laundering. All these people we're gonna get all of you guys for FARA. You're all foreign agents, not registered, right? Under the dark of night doing this to destroy, not just destroy our country. What's most upsetting is you are keeping going a slave labor camp in China, right? And strip American working men and women of high value added jobs and then had the reverse opium war come in here with the fentanyl, right? With the drugs all coming up through China, through the cartels, through our buddies, through the no wall on the border, right? Just walking right in here, going up right up I-35. It's the reason El Chapo, first time since Al Capone, the Chicago Crime Commission named a public enemy number one. Remember a couple of years ago? El Chapo, a guy in the mountains of Mexico. How'd that happen? Because they're having drug wars in Chicago over the drugs they're bringing up, particularly the opioids. This is what your country's. This is the decline. This is the managed decline of the United States of America by our elites that are business partners with a totalitarian dictatorship. And Donald Trump just said yesterday, the president of the United States attack, right? What do you say? The worst. There's never been an attack like this. Never been. Worse than Pearl Harbor. Worse than 9/11. Much worse. And by the way, for the hashtag war and pandemic, somebody the other day caught me on something. You're absolutely correct. Said, Bannon, how can you say it's the biggest mass casualty thing when the mass casualty when the flu of 1918 killed, I think, 650,000 in a smaller population? Well, that is a pandemic that came naturally from Haskell, Kansas, or wherever it happened. When I say mass casualty, this just didn't happen, right? And I'm not saying it's a biological weapon. We're going to find that out over time. I'm not saying it's even it got man-made elements to it. We're going to find that out over time. Greater minds than ours will determine that as soon as we get into those labs and find out and interview everybody. But what we do know is that they suppressed the information, held the information, and then sent this thing throughout the world when they realized it was out of control thing. So that means the 73,000 Americans you've got here are casualties in a war. The pandemic are dead. I don't consider that a mass casualty event, but I appreciate the hashtag war pandemic posse throwing that up there. It was a very good insight. By the way, you guys have great insights. I've been hogging the mic, and you guys jump in here. I know it's
for the audience that's not listening, that's not watching on America's Voice. Steve actually came down here and removed all the other mics. We now have to share one mic. And he has both hands wrapped firmly around it. Steve, I want to just disabuse ourselves of the idea Jack mentioned earlier, and I'm going to bring this onto a broader point about the distinction between the Washington Post publishing the Chinese ambassador and Weibo or whatever taking down the Pottinger speech in Mandarin. Let's not pretend that the Washington Post is doing this for some altruistic free speech reason, right? And to defend the freedom of the press. The Washington Post opinion page is a litany of abuse against the President of the United States, and they take the side of whomever is on the other side of the coin of the United States and of the President of the United States, right? And that brings me on to something else as well. You mentioned Jones Day. We also have to talk about this new Huawei thing. And the Huawei thing, I had thought, especially from what I'm hearing on Capitol Hill, that lawmakers had finally come to a point where actually we were ramping up pressure on supposed allies of the United States, my home country included, to stop Huawei getting a foothold in all of this 5G business. Now we're hearing, as Reuters popped yesterday, that the Commerce Department is close to signing off a new rule that would let US companies work with Huawei on setting new standards for 5G. And you want to talk about managed decline. That's the point, isn't it? That there are people here who see the money to be made and who see that, hey, if we wait on this thing, then the Stephen K. Bannons of the world and the Tom Cottons of the world and the Mike Pompeos of the world, well, they're going to convince the American public about this China stuff. So we better move now. And that's what you're seeing right now. Now, this thing is in draft right now. And I sincerely
walk back over. Tell people the importance of this, because this also comes up, and Matt Bowles got a great piece over in Breitbart with McCarthy today announced that the Republicans are going forward with a China group in the House to try to coordinate every committee. They had to deal with the Democrats. And the Democrats look, we're hardcore partisans. We got that. But we've tried to run the show as nonpartisan as possible. We want to pull people together. The thing that should unite us, and the Democrats got to understand this, is this whole war, the CCP against the Chinese people and people in the United States and mankind. It would seem to me something to pull together. It's not a time to play politics, particularly since Nancy Pelosi has been, up until now, up until a guy named Donald Trump got involved, she was actually at the forefront of the anti-CCP. Her political career started because of Tiananmen Square, right? She was a fire breather. I think they got that video. She's getting arrested. The cops are hassling her in Tiananmen Square when she goes over. But the Democrats take a Pasadena, just like the guy Seth Moulton that was in the film I made with Michael Pack. Michael Pack, who hopefully is eventually head of the broadcasting, and to fire Amanda Bennett as his first another running dog of the CCP, hooked up with the Washington Post family. Disgusting. Go pivot back to water, because I don't want to take too much airtime. Yeah, I know the audience is going crazy. Hey, Bannon's. I'm not interrupting.
No, they're liking it today.
No, I'm not interrupting. I say I'm not interrupting. I'm just grabbing the mic and running.
We can't interrupt.
Jason had a whole. You don't understand. We do a whole show clock. Jason's got 100 clips. Greg Mans has got stuff. Screw it. Let's go.
It's not interrupting if the other person never talks in the first place.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And here's the thing: we want to know who in the U.S. Department of Commerce is behind all of this, right? But CNBC reported and Reuters reported yesterday the Department of Commerce is close to signing off on a new rule that would allow U.S. companies to work with Huawei on setting the standards for the next 5G networks, right? That's the top line. That's effectively what we need to know right now. You have to understand the Commerce Department put Huawei on its entity list last May, citing national security concerns. So nothing's changed. If anything, it's only ever gotten worse from that point on. So why are we now talking about deferring? And by the way, just want to give a shout out to my buddy in the UK, Tom Fowdy, CCP running dog Tom Fowdy.
You got to bring up what you found on this guy. This is another. Raheem is already, he was an assassin against radical jihad for years. So he's the most hated guy in Europe, right, by the left. As you took down these guys left and right and then did Brexit. But now that you're on the Chinese CCP information war, you already got two scalps. Talk about Fowdy.
Look, Tom Fowdy was this, and apparently once upon a time UK Independence Party candidate. More on that to come, by the way, and more on why he left the party, by the way. Tom Fowdy, if you're listening, lots of people are leaking to me. You're in a lot of trouble.
Nice due diligence, Nigel.
I think that was in between Nigel, by the way. That was when Nigel had stepped down. But Fowdy has written tons and tons of articles for CGTN, CCTV, the Chinese state media outfit, and there's no semblance of balance, right? It's not even like Matt Boyle writing at Breitbart, where it's, he'll give the Matt Boyle view, but then, here's the news as well, make your own mind up and have it out in the comments. There's no comments, right? There's no consideration here. And Fowdy This after we rumble him, after we show this pattern of work for him and the CCP, and he goes into full meltdown as, I'm going to sue everyone. Okay, sue me. He publishes an article on CCTV, on CGTN today, and the article is entitled, "The United States Quietly Concedes Defeat on Huawei's 5G." And the sad thing about that is that headline's not inaccurate. Because if the Department of Commerce is really, truly allowing 5G to set standards with US companies, then that's a propaganda victory for the CCP right here, right now.
Where's Wilbur? I know Wilbur's permanently down like in Florida, right? Because he's 90 years old and afraid to get, hey, calling it like I see it, right?
83.
83, okay, 83. I'm just rounding up. Where's Wilbur on top of this? He's supposed to be Secretary of Commerce. We're going to get Spalding on. We'll get Spalding on tomorrow. Have Spalding go completely nuts. By the way, Chris Kobach's going to come on about the Senate putting forward this the new issues related to immigration, about how when you have 33 million Americans out of work, right? Maybe it's time, just throwing this out there, maybe it's time that we stop issuing work visas, right? Until we get that 33 down to 31, and then maybe we reconsider. I mean, what are we doing here, right? And so we got guys in the Senate. Kobach's going to be on tomorrow to explain all that to you. And then we're going to have the 5G. Yes, sir.
From hashtag War Room Pandemic, Bannon, hashtag Free the Mic. No more one mic, one road.
By the way, the best heckle I got yesterday was we want war Bannon, not poet Bannon. Enough of the one side equal, right?
From war comes the greatest poetry we've
that's what I'm saying.
had.
The war poets.
Would
right?
Steve do traditional poetry or slam poetry?
Haiku.
My favorite poet, Robinson Jeffers. Look that one up. Or Jerusalem Delivered. Hashtag War and Pandemic. By the way, we need you people to download the podcast, even if you listen to us live, because we want you to give a review. Download the podcast and give us a review. Tell us what you really think. One of the things here, we're building a community. And I'll tell you who knows we're building a community. The leaders of the Chinese Communist Party in Beijing. We'll be back in a moment with the entire team.
Pain, swelling, stiffness. When your hands hurt, you can't function. Until now. Introducing the new Copperfit compression gloves with Sure Grip technology to give you more power, more control, and more agility than ever. Our most advanced copper-infused compression fabric woven into an ultra-lightweight performance glove that fits like a second skin to support relief and recovery of sore muscles and painful joint stiffness. And new Sure Grip bands built in to provide a strong, non-slip grip for more power and control.
You need total control of your hands when you're doing anything with construction. Your hands are your livelihood. The Copperfit gloves are great. The grip is outstanding here with these different ribs. It makes my hand a lot more usable. It just feels like you're just ready to start the job.
The gloves have been a game changer for me. They help with flexibility and pain and soreness. They allow me to do my job even better.
Breathable wicking fabric with an open finger design for full range of motion, feel, and control.
They relieve my pain. When I grab something, I'm not in pain. The support or whatever magic these things do, I don't know what it is. It doesn't matter to me what it is. It works.
I get a lot of pain, and it can make it difficult to do the smallest thing. While I'm wearing this, I do not have any pain. I can use it on the keyboard. I can use my phone. I drive with it. I sleep with it. I love this glove.
The new Copperfit compression gloves with Sure Grip technology. Relief from painful muscle and joint soreness. Guaranteed or your money back. Call 1-800-984-5571 or on the web at getcopperfitgloves.com for only $19.99. Order right now and your shipping is free.
I've tried it. I use it. I know it works.
Copperfit gloves definitely just make my life better.
I've used Copperfit before. This has helped my hands so much. These things work.
Feel better with copper-infused compression. Ask for it by name. Copperfit compression gloves.
Hello, I'm William Shatner, and you may not know this about me, but years ago, I was diagnosed with a sleep disorder. And like millions of others, I was prescribed sleep equipment. Did you know sleep equipment manufacturers recommend daily cleaning? That's why I use So Clean. It's the perfect complement to my daily routine, and it's hassle-free. So Clean is fast and easy. It keeps my sleep equipment fresh every day without the need for disassembly.
With So Clean, daily maintenance is a snap. All you do is place your equipment in, close the lid, and walk away. You can try So Clean risk-free for 30 nights. Order now and get a $50 rebate.
So Clean is so fast and gives you peace of mind that your sleep equipment is fresh each time you use it.
Call 1-800-648-4349. And for a limited time, get a $50 rebate. Call 1-800-648-4349 or go to SoClean.com.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
I think it's Emerson that tells us a resolved mind is unstoppable, and that's what we're trying to work up here and coach up people. Let's get some resolved minds. So in the righteous indignation of the American people, we can take on the Chinese Communist Party and defeat them. Let's go. We've talked about war and pestilence in this hour. Let's do the trifecta. Since you're here for your morning upbeat, it's a beautiful spring day, but hey, if you're particularly in Washington, D.C., it's open-ended. I think we're going to be sheltering in place right now. They said yesterday they have no program. There's no plan by the mayor to open anything, even in June, right?
Yeah, but the Mayor Bowser is going to be forced into this. And look, I got to say, Mayor Bowser, I think, has been pretty solid through most of this. I obviously, we're on different political allegiances and such, but I think she's been pretty solid. But we're starting to see Maryland move forward, and even Virginia is probably going to start loosening some things here. They have, I mean, I live in Virginia, so June 10th is what we're technically in that 10-week shelter in place, but they're saying May 15th things are going to start opening up, or at least partially. D.C. is going to be kind of forced into it.
The only essential services I saw in the Commonwealth that were unlike with the ABC liquor stores and the gun shops, right?
Gun shops have
I can
always
do
been
that
open.
heckle. I'm a Virginian, so
Yeah, no, gun shops. No, that's I got to say
services.
Loud and Guns. Those guys are great.
I'm not saying anybody loaded. I'm not saying anybody stocked up there. Let's go to we did war, pestilence. Jack, let's talk about famine.
Where's the beef?
Where's the beef? Okay, well, we've heard about the abattoirs around the world are definitely having troubles with the COVID-19, everywhere from Brazil now to Germany to France and in several states in the United States. So we're seeing a supply chain issue when it comes to meat. But more importantly, what we're seeing is the potential for absolutely devastating famine inside the Horn of Africa in the northeast of the continent and all the way through Arabia. I just posted on our Twitter feed something from the UN, which is their locust watch. Now, they have potentially the biggest swarm of locusts in the second half of the 20th century. The last time they saw something even near this was in 1949. They are talking about these swarms are all the way along the Indian-Pakistan border. They've had multiple rains this spring, which means that the eggs that were laid in the soil around this region are ready to burst again. So they see waves of locusts all through the summer. Yemen is going to be devastated. Much of the Arabian Peninsula is going to be devastated. And they say that these locusts can wipe out as many as 200 million acres of cropland and grazing land. So the UN is talking about potential for, there are 130 million right now people on the brink of starvation. They see that potentially doubling. And what's quite frightening when we think about this is we have enough casualties from this awful virus that escaped from China, or they allowed to escape. But let's think about the other side, right? There are going to be people, millions of people in Central Africa and all the way up into Asia who are going to be suffering a devastating crop season.
The 130 million. But it looks like some
Jack, sorry to jump in.
Yeah.
We'll get right back to you. Breaking news on CNN. One of Trump's personal valets has tested positive for the coronavirus. A member of the U.S. Navy who serves as one of President Donald Trump's personal valets has tested positive for the coronavirus. CNN learned Thursday, raising concerns about the president's possible exposure. Breaking news story. We'll have more shortly.
permanently disqualified, according to the United States military.
Now, we'll say before I hand it back to Jack, I mean, keep in mind President Trump, just knowing his personal interaction. He's not someone who's a regular handshaker. He's not someone who's the regular backslapper. Like, hey, he's not, pulling the Joe Biden, like, sniffing his valet's hair or anything like that. So, and President Trump has been tested over and over. And so before anyone freaks out, like, of President Trump have the Rona, he has some normal social distancing measures that he takes.
But it shows you, it just shows you the things everywhere, right? We know very little about this virus.
Statement from the White House, quote, "We were recently notified by the White House medical unit that a member of the United States military who works on the White House campus has tested positive for coronavirus. The president and the vice president have since tested negative for the virus and remain in great health."
Also shows you the asymptomatic nature of this. Not saying it's a weapon, just saying, hey, it's asymptomatic for 14 days when you're the most infectious. I'm sure somebody at the WHO is going to tell me how that's part of nature, which I'm sure it is. Let's go back to, this is horrible. The 130 million, Jack, is going to be concentrated where, they think right now?
Mostly in the Horn of Africa and in the Middle East, but this is 130 additional, right? There are already over 100 million people who live in a sort of food insecurity in the region. So what's quite frightening, they had Lane Bunkers, a representative for Catholic Relief in Kenya, says, these are tough odds. The focus appears to be more on coronavirus pandemic, but hunger could likely kill many, many more people. The swarms can strip a community's entire agricultural production for a season bare in a matter of hours, said Kirk Pritchard, Humanian Director for Concern Worldwide. This is something that I think we have to pay attention to, and this is something that the United States and Brazil, in partnership, the two great free countries of our hemisphere and the engines behind global agriculture, really, I think, together can take a lead to try and feed the world. We've been saying this for months, but it's now becoming a real concern. And I'd love for the American people to start paying attention to it.
When the devils in the CCP that understood that they had a massive pandemic themselves in Wuhan and Hubei, and it was the equivalent of the nuclear reactor of Chernobyl, and they decided to lock that down, but have people travel all over the world. And what did the New York Times say today? That New York City would become the hotspot? Yes, sir.
Yeah, and look, and what Jack told us is, I mean, this is some mind-blowing numbers, but look, it's here at home as well. Brookings has a new study out saying that 41% of mothers with kids under 12 responded in an April survey their families had experienced food insecurity since the pandemic began. 34.5% of homes with a child 18 years or younger have had difficulty getting enough food. So, I mean, these are some, and going right into this, I mean, look, let's talk about for a moment real quick, I know we got to go break. Yeah. Let's talk about the issue on the U.S. meat shortage. Reuters has a really good column out from Karen Braun. I'll tweet this out about the U.S. facing meat shortage while exports to China have been soaring. Now, they take a little bit of the first quarter before we started putting the clamp down. But look, we exported more pork in the first quarter of this year than we did in all of 2019. I'm sure that's going to change now, but China's nowhere even buying the level. So I think this is going to stop, but we've been sending a lot of food to China.
The CCP understood when they sent this thing throughout the world, when they couldn't contain it themselves, they understood that there was going to be famine in these countries. They understood, people. This is not law of unintended consequences. This is the law of consequences, right?
Absolutely.
This is not conspiracy. Media matters, all you guys. You're always proved wrong. So have your little field day. They're banning on these guys. Hey, the dots are being connected every day, and they were connected yesterday at the Resolute desk. We're going to be back with second hour in just a second.
I'm Nick Bolton, and these days...
Hey there.
Hey there. It seems everybody has a pair of tactical sunglasses.
Good morning.
Morning. But what if you already wear glasses? Then you need these flip-up tack glasses. These new glasses fit right over your existing eyewear to give you all the benefits of our tack glasses while you comfortably wear your regular glasses. And watch this. When you don't need them, the lenses flip up and out of the way. Then snap right back into place when it gets bright again. Plus, like all tack glasses, flip-up tack glasses feature Bell & Howell light-filled